Hello, and thank you for joining me for this look at I Lost My Body. My name is Kim, and rather than messing around, let's get straight into it. I Lost My Body is a film that was directed by Jeremy Clapham. It was originally produced independently, and released in the Cannes Film Festival in 2019. So with its release in Cannes, it was the first animated feature that was nominated and the winner of the Critics' Week Award. Since then, it has been picked up by Netflix and is now distributed on the Netflix platform. So from all the awesome things we could discuss about the film, from the choice of the colour palette that's used between chopping between sequences to give you an idea of the timeline, from the story arc that flows seamlessly across everything, from the book it's actually taken from, and from the choice in medium and the way they've used the medium to tell the story, all of that, I'm going to choose one little thing, which is what I focus on the mostly, which is the framing for a couple of sequences. So let's get in and check out the framing of the sequences with Inside I Lost My Body. So a short disclaimer, I'm going to be talking about things that if you haven't seen this film, you might want to watch the film first. So I Lost My Body is a very intense film, but it doesn't rush through its story. It is very slow, it is very methodical in the telling of the story that it's after. The focus from the sequences which we're going to be looking at is very much from a unique perspective, which is what I really dug about this film, was the way that they were able to capture a story without dialogue from its main character. So right from the start, we're down on the ground. The parts of the story I'm going to be focusing on are definitely the parts which were told as from the hand. So to get things off right from the start, we are down on the ground. Now, I really dig this particular starting frame because it's put the audience off right from the start by giving its horizon line on an angle. So it's already tilted the audience off to the ground. So they have used other storytelling techniques in here as well. A beautiful frame inside a frame, so we know exactly where we want to be looking. They've used this broken glasses as a frame to frame the face in the background. They've also used a real hotspot back here so we know where the light's coming from, and blurred the background out really well, and just given us really good distinction about where they want us to be focused. We've also got some nice foreground elements in here which are as well clean, getting closer to the body, and a blurred frame outside the body. But I really like this first frame that tells a story all within itself. One of the things that really got me about the sequences, which I'm really talking about, is perspective. We're so used to, as humans, being able to see a particular perspective from our eyes' point of view, that when we're thrown in to looking at the world from a different angle, there's something really interesting about it. And I think they've really, with crafting this film, they've been able to take the human story as well as this perspective from a micro world. With this particular shot, we're down back on the ground again, and we're looking at the eye as a character itself. Once I got into this, I was looking at it going, does the eye itself have a personality? Am I meant to think that the eye is sentient as well? Because the hand, we're introduced to the hand along the same lines as the eye. The eye sort of rolled out the fridge as well. But we don't see the eye being able to do anything. Like the hand itself is skittering and scuttling and coming to life. So we're getting introduced to it in this first sequence. But the eye doesn't really have any way of moving, but the way that the camera has been looking at it and giving it full focus, like look at this, the eye itself is the feature in this particular shot, and it's a circle. And if you've watched any of my videos before, you know that I'm really like circles within shots. So an eye being a circle in amongst all the background, which is very much straight, it's framed up on a black background or a dark shadow, the shadow behind the door, and we've got the white eye on the black background, and we've got a bit of light coming through the crack. So the framing of the shot is balanced with eye on one side, background action on the other, light on one side, darkness on the other. and our focus is on the circle of an eye. So, is the storyteller trying to tell us something about the eye having life? That was my struggle within this first sequence, and I really loved it. I got into thinking about it as we skidded through the shots. It's like the eye in the background is now looking distinctly at our foreground action, and that foreground fingers are over top the camera. Like, how small is our camera that we've got the fingers over top of it? And I really like the way they've ended up framing the light as well as the eye, because the hand is trying to find a way to escape to the light. So he's going from the darkened room, which he's escaped from, and he's going to the light. He's leading to the light. But we've been told about this eye all the way through this sequence, and I really love the way they framed up the eye too. So as we continue with the escape, because this goes back to some of the old black and white prison escape films and how they escape and set up the story for escape, we see in this frame that over half the shot, 2/3 of the shot when we look at it, is foreground element, like big, strong, dark foreground element. And as a 2D, 3D crossover film, there's so much detail in this foreground, which is what having these blended films now really lends it to. The environment can be added so much detail into it with the painting. It gives it a lovely feel, a real organic feel to depth, whereas it's not all hand-drawn and light is natural within the 3D world and the models that they've used to create this, and the 2D animation over top of it really gives it a beautiful texture and a beautiful feel to the film. And being that it's an adult concept, it's really dark as well. It's not bright and colourful, which is what I really dug. It's a choice of colour palette. But 2/3 of this shot is foreground element. And then we've got just our background element is blurred, but you've got a sense of depth and the escape which was trying to happen. Now, I really love the story arc that went through this first sequence, the juxta of a real people actually being obstacles he's trying to overcome to get to the point of escaping from where he is. But through that story, we've used elements of him being assisted by what we've ended up with, the eye. It really threw me to see that the eye was an assistance. And we killed the character of the eye so quickly in this first sequence. But the way the sequence was structured and brought to life with us as the viewer being introduced to the eye so strongly, and the eye being used as a story tool to distract, with the eye being used to distract the antagonist or the human from finding our hand as it tried to escape, it brings it back to the whole eye itself gets a full frame as it's been squashed. I'm like, it's a really strange thing to focus on an eye as it's been squashed. But it's such a strong storytelling point and motive within this first sequence. There was so much thought put into what was driving this sequence that I had to feature the eye. And of course, the framing of the escape, again, darkness falls about the land, and we've ended up with a frame here. Inside a frame is our hero, who we've been following and getting to know, is really pushed right to the side of frame, way over there, and we can tell he's hiding from being found by the main guy we've been brought in, and all we really see of him is one eye and a background. The strong square lines in this really give a nice frame, and I really appreciate how much they've gone into capturing a hand as the main feature and the framing of the hand. As creative storytelling goes, this sequence absolutely got me without having to use words. The telling of the story which they used between the interaction of a pigeon or a mother that we understand as humans and a hand that's, or just an intruder coming into your place and wrecking things up. It's a very primal instinct, and it's told so beautifully without words. There's within the framing, we look at the frame again, it's off kilter. We look at our leading lines in here. Our horizon line is not flat, which is very creative. Plus, we're on, something that's bigger than normal. You look at a pigeon. A pigeon is never normally that big, and there's not that many, there's not that many films. Well, actually, there is. There's a couple of films now which have featured pigeons as being main characters, but they're always characterized pigeons and they're always humanized. There's not often where we'll find a pigeon being a pigeon where we'll relate to it just in its natural home, going, we've featured that the egg is broken. We have a reverse angle where we see the eggshell on the finger and the mum actually pecking the shell off of the finger. So she's been intruded upon. Her home, her life has been intruded on, which is really lovely, which is really beautifully told within the framing of these shots. We can see that there's another lovely shape here used between the eye, the hand, and these two lead you in a triangle about what's going on. So using that story of the pigeon, using the story of the mum protecting her home, she wants to get rid of the intruder. So she does a lot of really nice quick shots of her struggling with this hand, which ends up with another beautiful shot. I really love framing like this, where we've been shown a lot of what is essentially negative space. It is just a blur on the side, but it gives us a sense of vertigo and depth of what's at stake for this hand if it gets pushed out. We've got everything pushed over to the side again. Again, it's very much right frame heavy, but it's very focused on her doing a lot of hard work to get rid of it, get rid of this intruder to her. And she's having a struggle with it. And I love how much time we actually do spend with this struggle. With this film as a whole, like I said, it doesn't rush, but we really felt, the pigeon is working really hard and really upset that this thing's close to her family. And it was a lot of a struggle to get this thing out the way for her, but she was working towards it. It was really well shot in that I did feel really sorry for the pigeon. At this point, I'm cheering for the pigeon. I'm going, yes, I can understand where you're going and your emotion and your feeling, but I'm also feeling for our main character, the hand, because I don't really want it to be fallen to the ground. So to push that all together and end up where this sequence does, it was exhausting. I was so exhausted going, this is so beautifully captivated. Within the framing that it's got, again, looking back, we've got really clear, strong lines. We've got what's at stake when they go over the edge here. We've got a beautiful, this has been the first time we've actually hit a dead center framing, which has been really strong, but it's nice shapes within that framing as well, leading down to what's at stake. Again, the artistry within inside this frame is beautiful. And we ended the sequence on an empty frame. We've told the story about where things have gone, what happened, the struggle. It was a struggle within this sequence for a lot of things, but we've ended up again with a tilted frame where a horizon line is not flat, it's not square, and we've lost all our characters. It was a beautiful, heart-wrenching sequence wrapped up within two characters which couldn't talk. Oh my God, what a film. And it is so much fun pulling this film apart. I hope you guys have enjoyed it as well. If you have, if you have any other films that you'd like me to dig into and pull apart, please leave a comment down below. And I think statistically there is only like 2% of people who ever get to the end. So thank you. Until the next time, bye-bye.